electronic submittals, Trimble Unity Construct platform, also formerly known as eBuilder. So I'll go ahead and take over for this part. Basically, what we consist and what we ask you is basically for the pre-construction overview. Let's start with pre-construction, and it applies the same for the construction as well, for the construction. So each deliverable must be submitted through the TCAP digital platform, right, which is eBuilder Trimble, as a standalone process via the TPCR process. And I'll get to show you in a little demonstration that we have. We had some slides here. So basically, an example is if you are submitting your HASP, you'll submit it as one process. If you're submitted your certificate of insurance as process number 2, your MWBE as process number 3, and then your security plan, your TCPR 4. Please remember, do not submit any confidential documents via eBuilder or Trimble, meaning that if you have to submit any of your submittal confidential documents, please talk to your REO before submitting them. The following information can be combined into one TPCR. You could submit your PH401, your architect engineer record certification, your construction project schedule, your hours of work, your staging plan, your emergency contact info, etc. Everything that's related to the project you can submit under the one process. Why we highly encourage you this, Chris has touched upon this and the other reviewers as well too, it's because of the reviews. Some reviews are quicker than others, you get your comments faster, and you get to track it in a more efficient way. And the same thing applies for your construction submittals. Let's navigate a little bit throughout the system, and I'm gonna just show some snipes around the system. So basically you have, this is your eBuilder when you log in, and you have a main navigational bar on the top that has home, dashboard, projects, form, processes. That's your general navigational bar. But you also have your workflows and your court, or which it should say my processes. Anything that requires for you to take an action or requires your attention will show up immediately as you log in, will show up in the first thing known as my processes or workflows in your court. It's a quick start. And then you also have to the very far left, you have, or in the right as well too, you have training information and contact information in case you need to reach out to any of us admins for questions for eBuilder or materials regarding eBuilder. The next part of it is if you click on processes on the first start, you can type your TAA number or your minor work number. You can search for those in the search bar right there. Or if you know the name, you can also type the project name and the title, and you can click on the project. Or you can create different views as well too. If you, let's say for example, you're working on you're an AOR and you have working on different airports such as Newark and LaGuardia and Kennedy, you can create different views as well too. Once you go ahead and click on the process or the project, sorry, that you're looking for, and you want to start a new process, always look to the far left side that says start the process. Whenever you want to start a process, either for minor works or for TAAs, in this case, we're talking about the TPCRs and the TCRs, the construction reviews, always click on, you can start the process. This screen will pop up, and this screen has all the processes you'll need throughout your TAA. The first one will be the TCR, then you'll have your design review, your field walkthroughs, your inspection process, your pre-con, and you can see the acronyms right here in parentheses, and your project details updates. Basically, the ones we're referring to today is TPCR and the TCR. Both of them, both TPCR and TCR are identical in anything you navigate throughout it. The interface is exactly identical. Same thing as the process. As you can see here, this is a sample. Chris showed it earlier today. It's the sample of what the process looks like. Anything in green is related to the person who starts the process, basically meaning steps that you can take an action on as a submitter. And then you have your beige or your clear steps, which are the REOs, and your technical review. But basically anything in green is steps that you can take, you need an action to take. And I'm just gonna navigate quickly through these. When you start a process for the pre-construction review, this is the start screen. This is what you get. You see that you have your project number, what kind of process you started. always, always, always in all of our processes on eBuilder, you're going to get asked C or CMP. This is confidential or confidential and privileged warning, meaning you do not need to attach it, any of that. So you can always mark it as no. This is a system integration. Unfortunately, we can't remove it, but you'll always mark it as no. Your scope description, it needs to be something very brief, what you're submitting. And then you'll type in your facility and location, your general contractor, if you have them, and then what document you are submitting. You can select it from the selection list, either your MWBE, your HASP, your EMP, your security plan, your special inspections, etc. If your documentation that you are submitting is not there, there is an other that you can select from this list, and you can type it in the box below. Once you do that, your documents, you can either browser in your computer, or you can browse, search for them on eBuilder if you had uploaded them previously, or you can drag and drop. If you have it easily on your desktop, you can just bring it over here and drag and drop it. You don't need to select the folder destination for these cases because they have already been pre-programmed. So that way you only just need to drag and drop. And once you submit your document, you see your document there, all you need to click is submit. If you are not ready to submit, you can always save it as a draft. And you can revisit it later, and you'll see it in the project as a draft. So moving forward, let's say, for example, if your resident engineer, you submitted it and reviewed it, a resident engineer reviewed it, and he says, well, something's missing, right? I need you to go back and revisit it. This is what the screen will look like when you get it back, either with comments or something that needs to be reviewed. You see, you only have the one option, which is resubmit and take an action. Instead of submit, now you need to take the action. Obviously, you'll get your scope description, which are marked as mandatory fields, same as the beginning, right? Your location, your general contractor, etc. You have these tabs over here on the top, and let me see if I can zoom in real quick, which are comments. You can always find if there is a general comment about a document, right, or from a reviewer, there's two places to find them. You can find them in the comments tab or in the comments matrix. And any document, let's say, for example, you have a document that's divided into 10 parts or 15 parts. There is not enough boxes probably to upload that. You can always come to the documents tab and upload them there. Any kind of, let's say, for example, your HASP is divided into 10, and you need to submit those 10 additional documents, you can always submit them in the documents tab, and there you can submit as many documents as you like. We always encourage at the very beginning to submit them, here in their field, because we know exactly what it is, and that's why we always encourage to submit them separately. However, if you are resubmitting and submitting additional documentation, you can always use the Documents tab. The fields, once it comes back to you, to your court as well, will always be open. So you can remove the documents and replace them for another one, or you can attach any additional documentation. You also have spaces for 2 additional documents. And your comments matrix, which you can download from here, do the responses when you need to, and then import it back again, and it should upload correctly into this. And the last step for this Trimble part is when it's received, when it's approved, what do I need to do with it? Because I see it there, it's still in my court. You have the receive by tenant part, which you can acknowledge. When you select the action, you can either request information or just acknowledge that I've received it and close it out and take an action. Which is that this is the very last part of it when you receive it. And I'm just going to show it, which is this part 04 over here. Received closes out the entire process. That means there's nothing to be done. Or if you have any additional information, you can request the information and it goes back to the REO. I know, and it's exactly the same thing again, once again, for the TCR. They're both the same interface, both exactly the same processes.